Guess who's back?
Guess who's back again. Welcome back, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm still like, I've got two more little things I got to get done, but I'm going to try to schedule them around to where I don't have to stop by. What I want to thank Ernesto, did a great job guest hosting. Things really got moving. You know, initially there was a little bit of sputtering, but I mean, I think once you guys got comfortable, things moved smoothly, and I appreciate him stepping in and helping out. I also want to apologize to you on the podcast here. I feel like it's such a big jerk. So Reed sent me a belated Christmas gift, and he texted me. He's like, "You got to open it on the podcast." So yesterday, a blank box arrives. I've been ordering a lot of stuff for the Mellow Mayonnaise show that's coming, soon. And I thought maybe it was just something that I ordered apart for that, and it ended up being the actual thing that Reed got me, which of course, yeah, because it's overexposed a little bit.
There we go. It's the SpongeBob. It's the SpongeBob mocking meme. I was so excited. I found that online. Paul always makes fun of me for my tweet game, and I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, and I ruined the whole surprise. I feel like a jerk, and basically next time I'm going to, like, whenever I get a box that shows up at my door, and I haven't got the box of Zoa yet, I'm wondering if someone might have picked that up.
So that was going to be my first. First off, welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. So Paul, last week, Ernesto came on, and I said we needed to get subscribers, and that I had joked that when all this XFL news would come on, that we might have to expand the show, go to 2 days a week, all these other things. And I know that that's a long shot. But I said the only way it would even be conceivably possible is if we added more subscribers. And what do you know? We added like 250 subscribers. So I think people are liking, I'm not saying we're doing, but people are liking what we are doing. Welcome all of our Canadian fans from up north. Tremendous show that I've tried to put together today. I'm very excited, but thank you all for subscribing. xflshow.com/YouTube. If you like what we're doing, I have Paul and I just got done conducting 3 wonderful interviews. We're going to have Dave Campbell on. He covers the Edmonton football team up there. We've got Matt Mengel on. He is a friend of the show, kicker from the Spring League. He got signed to the Alouettes. And then we have Braydon, who runs the CFL Reddit community. So what I try to do is, we've got, the media covered. We've got a player, what does Matt think about the 20% pay cut, all this kind of stuff going on. And then what did the internet think? So just a lot of work got put in today. Paul and I just got done literally doing, almost hour and a half worth of interviews. So thank you guys all so much, but please subscribe. Tremendous viewership and subscriptions. So Paul, did you not get your Zoa?
I didn't.
Well, I'll tell you this. So I've had friend of the show, Max, friend of the show, Zach. Here's what we're going to do. I have my Zoa. It's on Amazon now. You don't have to do it or not. I'm giving you the option. I tried to order Paul Zoa, the Rock and Danny's energy drink. Next week on the show, I'm drinking Zoa next week. So Zach, Max, Paul, Amazon, it's on there right now. I got mine. We're doing it next week. So order it if you got it, and we're gonna do it next week. It's on Amazon. They've got sugar free. It'll be great for your health conditions.
Yeah, thank you for completely violating my HIPAA.
I just said health conditions.
Discussing that. Oh, I've said it on numerous occasions that I'm type 2 diabetic, and that is what helped me get my first dose of the shot. Folks, take it from me. If you can get Pfizer, get Pfizer. Moderna kicked my butt for at least a day. It was bad.
Anyway, but yeah, welcome back. Shout out to everyone. We had viewers from Ukraine, Russia, and Egypt this week on the show, plus obviously Canada, healthy, probably 30%. Anyway, thank you guys all so much. And please continue commenting on the YouTube. I was going to read some of them on the show. There's a million. I read and respond to all of them. So you can go back and verify there's a whole healthy discussion about all this stuff. So thank you guys all so much. We're doing this for free. We're trying to get that monetization on YouTube. We're almost halfway now. I mean, who would have thought in a week that we would have been almost halfway to our goal? We're doing the giveaway. Paul's got a Chad Ochocinco football. I've got lots of old XFL show merch. We're going to do a whole thing. So any thoughts on that before we get moving, Paul?
If you can, if you're a subscriber and the podcast is boring you, or there's a part that you don't pretend you're like kind of tuning out on, just leave the YouTube link on and go do the dishes or something. Because there's two parts to this thing with monetization on YouTube. There's the subscriber count and there's the public hours watched count. So once you have those two things combined, guess what? They monetize you. And we really want to get to that point where, all of Reed's hard work is paying off. And we'll hopefully get there very soon.
Yeah, we've got a great show today. I'm really excited. Zach was messaging me yesterday. What do you got? Like I said, we got all the angles covered today. I'm really proud of the show that we put together and the interviews that we just did. So thank you all for our guests ahead of time for taking the time today.
So the big news that came out this week in terms of the CFL, we're going to lead with that, I guess.
Who knew?
The CFL has delivered a proposal to the Players Association targeting an on-time start to the season and asking for a 20% pay cut that would apply if no fans are in the stands.
Yeah, this is rough. We talked with Matt about this. The problem is that, CFL players traditionally do not get paid nearly at the same level. I think the average base salary is $65,000 for the season. Taking the 20% pay cut, they haven't been paid the last year. And that's the difference. I've seen a lot of people talk online about, okay, well, but the front office staff and whatever, they're taking pay cuts too. And absolutely, like I get all of that. And it's terrible for everybody. But from my understanding, a lot of the management has still been paid the last year where the players have not. And so that's where it's like you're taking a dip now where you didn't even have a paycheck. And what do you've played professional. What do you think about this?
I played like for, weeks, but I think that it's hard to ask a group of people that have already given up a season of pay to give up even more so, because, at a certain point, like they're not playing for free. Like they have to be paid. It's a job that they work toward, even when they're not playing, like they're in the gym, or like Matt Mengel and, Ernesto are kicking, and also in the gym and working on their craft outside of when they're getting paid as well. So asking them to do a 20% pay cut is, they're kind of just really squeezing the players and putting it on them. And it's going to be interesting to see. I think that now that there's a situation where the U.S. is starting to send some vaccines up to Canada, that you're going to start seeing a lot more people become immunized. That will bring your COVID rates down. That will bring, everything down to where we can get fans back in the stands. And to that point, fans coming back in the stands, maybe they don't have to do such a drastic cut on pay. Yeah,
I saw comments today even still about this, and it just infuriates me. They're like, well, if you can't survive off of, it's $65,000, and if you can't survive off that, and I don't know what you're doing. And it's like, we're friends with these players, right? Matt came on the show, but I would, I talk with Matt, I send him stuff these are people, Ernesto came on last week, took 2 hours of his time to come on, host the show. They're out kicking every day. Every day I see him online working out. And so it's not just the, the 6, however long, 22, 23 weeks or whatever of the CFL. It's, all that time ahead of time and just the unknowing now. And I've got this soundbite here I'm going to play in a second, but just, you can't ask these players to put their lives on hold. And, we don't know if the season's going or what you're getting paid. And it's like these people are not getting other jobs. They're not working other jobs right now because they are trying to stay in peak. Ernesto talked about that last week. The difficulties of trying to stay at peak physical condition to go out and play football all the time is incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard. And I don't know how they do it. Quite frankly.
Yeah. My situation is that I had Tommy John surgery, and for me to start getting back out there and getting going and throwing again after my surgery, it was such an uphill battle. So it's like you constantly have to work out it if you're an athlete at this level, and it's asking a lot. It's asking quite a bit, and people saying that $65,000 is enough. No, it is not. No, it is not. I live in I know I've chosen to live in LA, and I could not make my life work on $65,000 here in LA. I couldn't imagine, I used to make less than that in Seattle, and it was hard for me to live in Seattle on, a around, I would say two-thirds of that, somewhere in there. Anyway, point being is like, these players deserve to get paid their full amount. They deserve to get paid more, for being honest, for being
way more.
And so I'm that's like the biggest, I think, draw to this merger is that they'll be able to expand their footprint and bring up those TV rights, bring up those player contracts, and really start playing around with these players getting paid exactly what they're worth.
Yeah, because the idea is that just to complete the story, they would take the 20% pay cut starting off the season with no fans, because obviously you wouldn't have the fans in to bolster, the ticket revenues and everything to pay the teams. Because as we talked with Rod Peterson on the podcast last week, the TV rights that the teams get just cover salaries. So like anything else, is they need to compensate from, the sponsorships and the ticket sales and all that stuff. So, as fans would come back in, there's formulas in place that those, that 20% would ratchet down, right? That they would be getting paid more full, but it's not a wonderful situation. Matt has comments about that. I'll encourage you to stick around a little bit later for his take on that. This was Dave Naylor. He's a TSN insider with the CFL. He was on last night talking about this. I'm going to hopefully hit play here, and this is going to work just fine on his thoughts about everything.
And angry when you.
Well, also, this is terrible audio quality, and it's not our fault. This is TS.
I was going to start blaming you.
No. This is a horrendous audio quality.
See that headline, 20% pay cut. But then when you stop and think about it and look at it and realize it's not necessarily a 20% pay cut across the season, that these are games that might be canceled altogether because the owners aren't going to open up the stadiums with no fans. And then this is maybe an attempt to play games that otherwise wouldn't happen. That said, he said a lot of players have moved on and gotten jobs that they're very devoted to, and they're hesitant about leaving these for less money than they thought they were going to earn. And then the sort of uncertainty or worry that the rules could change again once the season begins. And this particular player said, before he would sign off on 20% or not, he has a lot of questions about what happens if there's an outbreak, what happens if games are canceled and can't be rescheduled, all kinds of things. I think players are very skittish and are very aware of the uncertainty. And really, this offer right now, I think, has left as much uncertainty as it has answered about what may happen this season.
Well, so yeah, horrendous audio quality. Blame TSN for that. But thoughts about that?
Well, first and foremost, TSN, you're the ESPN of Canada. Let's get it together. Chop, chop. I mean, everything's valid. Are they going to move the goalpost, for lack of a better term, and say, okay, well, 20% wasn't enough. We need to cut down 25%. We need to cut down to 30%. Our vaccines aren't getting here as soon as possible. We need to cut. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, where's this stop?
Is there a sliding scale that they'll start cutting you back even more? And that's a very valid concern. It's a valid concern.
Yeah. So, that's kind of the main story right now. Matt has thoughts about it. We're going to talk with him and Dave coming up. I wanted to also spend time here at the beginning of the show, just as we are XFL, fans on the podcast. A lot of CFL people are listening, and I wanted to, Paul and I lived through all this last year, and it's so funny now. I never would have thought, sitting in Seattle, on that chilly February, watching the Dragons lose to the Renegades, that this would be part of this like larger narrative now of like merging or whatever with these leagues. A lot of attention has been focused now on, rightfully so, I guess, the 5 weeks last year of the XFL, right, Paul? So do you get what I'm saying here? So I wanted to talk just a little bit about everything going on. First and foremost, the XFL went bankrupt last year purely, I believe, because Vince McMahon was concerned about the WWE. And Paul and I have talked about this on the show. Paul, do you want to share some thoughts about why the XFL didn't just shutter last year, but why it went bankrupt?
Why it went bankrupt, it was an act of God, for lack of a better term. Force majeure. Like this was an act of God. This was a pandemic, and to that point, like at the same time this is going on, you're in the midst of planning a WrestleMania, like the biggest show of the year in the WWE, and now you're having to deal with that too. So all of a sudden now, Vince is a workaholic, right? We've established that, we've understood that. Vince is now worrying about a I think the TV deal came up last year too during this time. There's so many variables that Vince is realizing that now all of a sudden I need to spend the adequate time with the WWE again. That was my baby. That was what got me to the dance. I need to go back and focus on that full time. So some things might have gone by the wayside in the XFL. You know, we've talked about the Oliver Luck situation. Maybe Vince was hoping that he would do more to help bolster that. But, you know, the WWE got shut down. How they came back to being an essential business, you know, we've discussed that. We've questioned that. It's done. It's over with. I think that Vince just kind of needed to come back to what got her to the dance. And that was, you know, focusing on fixing what was wrong with the WWE. And I mean, they're still not completely back with everything that's going on. I mean, there's in terms of storylines, they're getting better. The storylines are getting better in that aspect, but the day-to-day operations, you know, there's people switching up positions. I mean, hell, that John Laurinaitis clown is back as head of talent relations. That's a bad look. And it's just like, you know, I think that like that, when that whole thing started happening, when Vince realized that maybe his wrestling organization was falling apart, he had to step away from this XFL thing. And that might've been, you know, part of not the big picture, but a little sliver of that on top of a force majeure, like pandemic stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Vince owned the WWE first and foremost. That, you know, obviously that's where he's made his money. WWE was on a $1 billion 5-year TV deal with like $550 to USA and then $450 to Fox. It's either or. It's $1 billion combined to produce Raw and SmackDown every week. And when all this was going down with the XFL and COVID and everything, WWE had nowhere to do their shows at all, right? And they were trying to figure out, like, are we going to be taping best ofs? Are we going to be re-airing old clips? You know, because WWE, their whole business is predicated on live original content every single week, 365 days a year.
In the contract.
It's in the contract. And so when all this was going down, you know, Vince shuttered the league. The plan was, everything that was said, that they were going to shutter for the, you know, week 5, whatever, and then they were going to come back and do the playoffs, because everybody back, last year thought, you know, this is going away in no time. But that was the plan. They had kept they were going to do the championship with all that. So just, but then when all this went down with WWE and they didn't have anywhere to wrestle, luckily, you know, Florida came in. It's Rick DeSantis, right?
Ron DeSantis, I always get it wrong, came in and basically Vince paid them a lot of money and got approved through to do, you know, wrestling in Florida under very specific COVID protocols. And that's why I firmly believe that Vince took his foot off the gas with the XFL and just decided, like, I got to be beholden here. You know, okay, it was one thing to try to get the XFL back. ESPN made fun of me with the 30 for 30. I'm going to relaunch this thing. I think at that point he realized, like, okay, we're done with this. Like, I got to move on. So just, you know, the XFL failed in 2001. The XFL did not fail last year. And not that I'm an XFL mark, but I am a Vince critic. And that's why I think it went bankrupt, or I think Vince would have still owned it and gone about that way. Well, here's another question. And I hate to digress onto the WWE situation, but they're currently in their Thunderdome in the Trop, which is a piece of crap in Tampa. They have to be out of there by Friday, April 9th. They have to be out of the Trop because guess who's coming back? The Rays.
Oh.
They have to be out of the Trop by April 9th.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Like I said, I think with all this came about, I think Vince realized, you know, just that there were other priorities. It's just also interesting, too. I saw a lot of analysis this week about, you know, TV ratings with the XFL, attendance. Okay, well, you know, week 1 in Seattle, and then week 2, there was like a 6,000 person drop, and I've seen a lot of CFL people very critical about, you know, a loss of 100,000 viewers or whatever from a league that has lost $80 million or whatever last year. So I just wanted to put that in perspective. I understand I'm not the XFL whatever guy, but like, yeah. It being snowy, I was at the game. It being snowy in February in the Seattle game, and having less attendance because of that. It's all in context. And I just don't want to hear like, well, the TV ratings on week 5 and CFL has lost money for years. So
the league is dying, CFL fans. Spoiler alert, your league is dying. And if you don't do anything about it, it is going to go away. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to bitch about, pardon my French, you're going to bitch about the tradition of the CFL? Or are you going to do something to save the CFL? Stop trying to compare things. Stop trying to say, well, the XFL this. Who cares this point?
It doesn't matter. And I'm not, and I tweeted today, I said, calling the XFL a twice failed league, the XFL in 01 is not the XFL of 2020, and it's also not the XFL of 2022. I wish when Vince had brought it back, I wish he would have changed the stupid initials and then we literally wouldn't even have had this conversation. And if Danny and The Rock had come out and said, hey, we're starting a new league and it's called the PWW, whatever, we wouldn't have had these conversations either. It's literally the 3 letters, and that is the only similarity from this point, especially from the 2020, from the 2019, 2020 version to the 01. That was the only similarity. And to now, it's definitely the only similarity, considering that Jeffrey Pollock is even still one of the only, there's a handful of people that are even still around. The last thing, I am sad about, I just wanted to have my 8 teams in 10 weeks. I never thought we'd be CFL podcasters, Paul. I never really thought that. But I am sad to think that if this all goes and blows up into something huge, I missed that. I wanted that. I am sad that we won't have the original promise of just a nice little compact league that Reed can watch in the 10 weeks in this offseason.
Tough. Sorry. I think it's beneficial for both. I mean, we've discussed that before, where I'm in favor of the merger. I think it's beneficial for both XFL and CFL to fill in each other's weaknesses.
Yeah. So it's just some other CFL stuff. Thoughts on, of course, we talked about the NFL TV deals and everything. It got finalized last week. Amazon's getting the Thursday night and whatever the games, and we've talked all about this in the past. But the key point now is that one NFL game in 2023 is going to the rights are about $40 million, which is about what the CFL gets for the whole season. And I know it's not apples to apples and whatever, but what is your reaction to that, Paul?
I think I said it all when I said it last week, that those TV rights, the CFL's getting screwed on the small amount of money they get for those TV rights. And we got Braydon coming on a little bit later to talk about how much the NHL makes from Rogers, and the discrepancy between the two TV deals even underscores my statement even more that, I know not too many people are watching the CFL like they should. They were back in the day, but there's still more money to be made there in terms of TV deals. So I think it's really staggering when you look at the Thursday night game on NFL making $40 million a year, and that is 2/3 of what the TV deal is for the CFL entire season. That's just insane to me.
Christopher Folds, Foulds, with Cam Plus this week. I don't know, Canadian, whatever. This got on my radar. He wrote this whole article about how he wants Canadian Congress to come in and basically save, House of Commons, save the CFL. We talk about this with the interviews. I mean, what hill are we dying on here, Paul?
You're not going to save the CFL with a 55-yard line and unlimited horizontal and vertical movement behind the line of scrimmage. You're not going to save the CFL with that. You're going to save the CFL with money. Money.
Beer.
That's a choke. That's a choke point, as Paul Heyman says. There's certain choke points when it comes to delivering a product, and the CFL is a product. If you don't have the distribution on TV, that's a choke point. You're going to go away. If you don't have the money to finance it, you're going to go away. There's so many different things to go to choke point where keeping a 55-yard line isn't going to matter if you don't have the money to put people on the field at the 55-yard line.
Yeah, this in the QB Cody Fajardo, the Rough Rider.
Fajardo,
sorry. He's got mixed feelings. I think it dilutes the CFL. There's a lot of logistical things. You have to think about the rule changes. You have to think about the ratio. And maybe I'm just not a Canadian national, and I just don't get. I mean, don't you just say tomorrow there's no ratio and then we just move on? I mean, like, I don't understand. I understand the need for it, and I understand the philosophy behind it, but like, I guess I was thinking about this week with everything that's happened in the last year, and how up is down and down is up, and our entire world is different, right? That like movie theaters don't exist anymore, but yet we're still like, well, but the Canadian ratio says that you have to, like, at what point do you just move on from a lot of things? I mean, life things that we were thinking about before.
I think we're taking a lot of things for granted here.
Yeah.
I think we need to shut the F up and realize that this time last year, we didn't have any sports in everything was shut down. Everything got shut down. Leagues got shut down because the idiot Rudy Gobert was touching microphones, making fun of coronavirus. And guess what? He was positive, and it shut the entire league down in the NBA. And then everyone else followed suit. MLB shuts down. Like, what are we doing? We lost sports. And now you're complaining about the traditions in sports? Just take the sports. Be happy with what you got. I don't care that, when the movie theaters are open, they're opening up now again. I don't care that I have to wear a mask to go into a movie theater, and then I'll only take the mask off to pop a couple popcorn pieces in my mouth, take a drink of my soda, and then put the mask back on when I'm done doing that. I don't care as long as I get to have the experience. So if you have the experience, why do you care about stupid things like 55-yard lines and ratios? Who cares? You get to watch football.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sure we're going to get yelled at. I get it. And we talked with Braydon, the XFL is not tied to our lineage the same way the CFL is tied to their lineage. And I absolutely understand. I absolutely respect that. But yeah, I do just think we need to get caught in the perspective shears. I just remember even months ago, I think the first listener, Max, on the podcast, I think the first thing he ever messaged me was like, hey, well, do you think that the leagues, when they redraft the leagues this year for the XFL, that they're going to keep the same teams? And I said, no, like, this is not, they don't care about this. Well, now here we are, like, we really don't care about that. I mean, like, this is wide open now. I mean, we were going to be an XFL podcast. Now we're talking to Canadian radio personalities. I mean, who would have thought that this would have been our life, Paul?
We have to adjust. Everything has to be an adjustment. You can't just I guess I'm way more frustrated about this than you are, clearly. And I just think I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's a bunch of okay boomer stuff, to be honest with you.
You do?
Yeah. All this traditional BS, it's boomer stuff. It's like, okay, boomer, we get it, kick the punt out of the end zone or whatever they do over there. I don't know. I think it's just boomer stuff. I really do.
Bob Irving, he is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers announcer. I'm really trying to get him on the show. He hopes that the CFL owners and presidents are not drinking the XFL Kool-Aid. I hope the drinking the Rocket XFL Kool-Aid don't include the CFL, who might want to take a step back and seriously consider whether they're going down a rabbit hole where there is no return. What return do we have?
Bro, do you know what the number one craft tequila brand in the world is right now, Bob? Terramana. Do you know why it's that? Because The Rock and his team are marketing geniuses. So maybe you should start drinking more of the Kool-Aid mixed with the Terramana and realize that the only way to grow the sport and get more people to watch the sport and care about the sport is to market it better. So why are we not drinking that Kool-Aid? Mix it with tequila. Go down sweet.
The survey came out. This is, hopefully I don't butcher this trying to read this. Paulo Senra, he's verified on Twitter. He was talking about the CFL opportunities, and they commissioned a national survey a few years back to understand where the fandom of the CFL was. The percentage of new Canadians less than 5 years in Canada that were fans were 18%.
Okay, so humanity's a pyramid scheme, right? You have a couple that has 3 kids, and you have another couple that has 4 kids. So now instead of 4 people, there's 7 people. It becomes a pyramid where the population's growing. And so 18%, like 1/5 of the kids that are coming out these days are you got to find a way to grow the league.
Yeah, you got to grow the league. The other interesting, there was I just see a lot of talk about, I got tagged in this, looking at non-soccer specific stadiums like Soldier Field and Yankee Stadium that can accommodate a CFL field. And I don't why is that a precedent for we need to find stadiums that can hold the CFL field? Like, I don't care what the field, whatever is, but if you've got 87 stadiums in the world that can hold the NFL size stadium, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, we're getting caught up on really interesting things that we're getting caught up on here in the fandom.
Well, first and foremost, there's only one soccer team that play. I don't even know why they're involving. I don't even know whether they're involving the mention of MLS here on this one, because I don't think it I get why they're mentioning it now, because it makes sense that the Defenders played at Audi Field in DC. I get why they're mentioning now, but folks, hey, there's also soccer specific stadiums in New York that aren't Yankee Stadium. The only reason Yankee Stadium gets a soccer is because it's part of the group that owns the Yankees. I believe NYCFC is part of the, and it makes sense to put that at Yankee Stadium. But Red Bulls play somewhere too. We don't need to necessarily have it at Yankee Stadium. We don't necessarily need to have it at Soldier Field. I know the Fire do play at Soldier Field, but we don't necessarily need to have. And do we even have a Chicago XFL team?
No,
we didn't have Chicago. So
but the idea is the idea behind this is that they're looking at stadiums in the U.S. that could accommodate a CFL field, and my question is why? Who cares? Either we're going to play CFL North, XFL South, right, and they're going to have some ownership or whatever, or I think you just standardize it with XFL. I'm really sorry. I don't know.
Oh, gotta have the 55-yard line.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's just where I'm caught with this, is I just don't see, I either see them running independently but together, or you just standardize it. And I don't think the standardization comes from, in these CFL fields, can't you just shorten it and not make it as wide? It's a lot easier to, am I dumb in that? Is that a dumb? It's a lot easier to cut off 5 yards on each side than it is to rejigger a whole stadium to fit a bigger field.
Well, okay. Yeah. It just seems like that's a stupid thing to adjust.
Well, I get, cause you're trying to maintain the game, but I'm saying
make the hashtags wider. Okay. That's fine. You can make the hashtags wider, the hash marks. They're very narrow for the NFL game. You can expand them out, but do you need that 5 yards on either side? I don't know, man. I think that there's too many things that they're focusing on here. There's oh my God, we're going to lose 5 yards on who cares? Who cares? Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. I had listed a bunch of stuff here just of various criticisms. I think we need to be excited about this. I think it's a reason to be excited about growth, about innovation for both. Maybe the XFL, maybe the Dragons never come back. I'm not going to boo-hoo and cry. You gotta be excited and just embrace the difference that we have going on. We're going to get into all our fan controlled stuff here at the end. I don't have a ton today. We'll talk about the championship and all that, but CEO Sohrab Faroudi of the Fan Controlled Football, he was talking about. I wanted to give Paul's take on this. I've been waiting all week. And I got a story about Sohrab later too with my jersey. He was asked about the XFL and all this kind of stuff going on. He goes, I'm with you that the XFL's on-field product and talent was top-notch, but if they don't completely change their business model, this third iteration will end up like the first two. XFL should stop talking to CFL and start talking to us, Fan Control Football.
Is it my turn to talk?
Yeah.
Shut the F up. Shut up. Shut your mouth. Your product stinks. Why would they call you? You change the rules every 5 flipping minutes. Why are they going to call you? I'm serious. Why would they ever call you guys? You guys barely got a league off the ground. You've been working at it for 5 years. Why are they going to call you?
I do think there's something to be said that running a 4-week bubble season versus an 8-team cross country just it is worlds different. And even the CFL compared to the XFL is worlds of a larger thing. And I think that equating, and not that fan control football has not had their success, but I think equating the success of fan control football at this point to even the AAF, to any of these, involving travel and personnel and stadiums and all this kind of stuff, I think is laughably off base.
Bro, you are like the person that comes online and starts a bookstore and thinks you're Amazon. Like, get out of here with this nonsense. You're not the end all be all. And let me go back to that point you made. The second time the XFL went down, it was because of a pandemic. It had nothing to do with what they were doing business model wise.
No.
The major reason was the pandemic. The major reason.
Yeah, and they talked about, again, all this nitpicking this week and the XFL and the ratings. That was, I guess, the other thing I wanted to comment on. There's been a lot of criticisms about week 5 of the XFL. And again, not that I'm a whatever mark, but like they were on like FS2 and FS3 like at Saturday at 11 o'clock, and they were still outdrawing PGA and Wimbledon and all the other sports we had going on. So you have to remember that too, that if we're going to get a TV deal, on NBC in prime time or on, Amazon or on Twitch, like the deal that Vince worked was good for the time. I criticized it online this week. Mike Mitchell, XFL reporter, we're friends. He came back a little bit and said, it was really good for an unproven product and yada, yada, yada. Okay. I get that. But like, now you got Danny and the Rock, you got all this money, you have all their production, you have Titan Games, you have all these movies, you have everything else. I just think that they're going to command a better TV deal than what was originally going on.
I want Sarab on the podcast. I seriously do. I want him on the podcast, and I want to decimate him. This is ridiculous. I am sick of this nonsense that fan control football is going to be the show. Bro, it's not. It's not. Your average view time was 5 minutes.
Yeah, we got talk here. I got a whole thing later about this. Last couple of things. The CFL, again, all these questions about when everything's going to be coming up. They have a global draft day scheduled for April 15th. It's scheduled. I've seen just some criticisms online about this, about why is the CFL, why are they still continuing with this stuff as opposed to like figuring out the pay cuts, figuring out the vaccines, figuring out like all the, like it just, maybe this year the priority shouldn't be, I understand the global initiative and all of that, but maybe should not be on that.
I agree with that. And it's not really up to the XFL. I mean, CFL too. I'm already slipping there. It's not up to the CFL to determine, vaccines. Like that's the Canadian government. And I'm glad that we're loaning them some vaccines. I'm glad that's getting figured out, and our friends up north are going to get vaccinated soon. So you can get fans back in the States.
A couple other notes here. XFL Dragons running back Trey Williams. He's going to go into the Stampeders. He's the XFL Dragons guy, so I just wanted to give that a shout out. There's a couple others this week, but any Dragons ones. Come on. So here's the thing that came on XFL Newsroom, their XFL site. USA Online Sportsbooks.com is an online sporting site, right? I can go on here right now. I can book on. Do you know about this?
No, I don't.
Well,
I know like all these sports books.
Okay. So apparently you can bet if the XFL is going to return in 2022, and the odds are plus 175. I don't know what that means.
I think it means you have to bet 175 to win 100, or is it 100 to win 175? Something like that.
But would you vote? I mean, would you bet on the XFL not going in 2022? I might.
Not going in 2022?
Yeah. I
would bet against it.
Yeah. I mean, apparently, I'm saying like right now you could go to onlinesportsbook.com and vote. Bet that the XFL. I thought that was phenomenal.
You can bet on anything. The stock market's a bet, if you're being honest.
Okay. I thought that was interesting.
Did you get this from me, or did you find this yourself? Oh, so I added something to the Google. I'm really proud of myself.
6 pages today. Paul got one bullet point. This was great. This was our last XFL thing, and then we got maybe we'll do We'll bring our guests in. Yeah, we'll do our break after this. This is a side note. We obviously covered XFL guys and the AAF guys in the NFL this year, like Andy Dalton played for the Cowboys, and John Wolford, who was one of the AAF guys, played for the Rams. He was actually the one that beat the. They didn't beat the Seahawks. They beat. He got injured in that game. They beat the team the week before. They beat the. Was it the Cardinals? I forgive me, but he got hurt and they brought back in Jared Goff. But yeah, what did they say? They said because ultimately the Rams got rid of Goff. They traded for Stafford. And what was the story behind this?
Basically, that the reason why they started considering that Jared wasn't the answer there in LA is because Sean McVay saw John Wolford and said, "Oh,
there's other alternatives out there."
There's other alternatives. Let's extend Jared one year and then get rid of him the next. Interesting.
Yeah.
Spring football works, doesn't it?
I would tell you that we did the whole episode, the Wolford of Wall Street. That was big times for us back in the late football season. But I thought
pre-CFL days, I guess we can call them now.
Yeah, pre-CFL days. Anyway, so I think we'll do a break. We'll do our guests. So we got Dave Campbell coming up. Edmonton Football Team covers all that. We've got Matt Mengel literally coming off the practice field. He's getting ready to go to the Alouettes. And then we have Braydon, who runs the CFL Reddit. So again, I hope you guys appreciate the work they put in coming on and everything and really trying to get all the angles covered.
And we'll be right back. Dave Campbell, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here, guys.
How are you doing, sir?
What's that? Sorry?
Oh, I said, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well. Other than being hard of hearing apparently today, I'm doing very, very well.
That's okay.
I love your backdrop. It is green and yellow, Edmonton all over the place.
That's green and gold to you, sir. That's green and gold to you, Paul. Yes, I'm swimming in green and gold in my office. I've been working from home for well over a year. So my wife and I decided we got to reconfigure this office to be a green and gold setting, and here we are.
It's the commitment when you actually paint the walls. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
I can duct tape up the flag, but I mean it's one thing when you've got the paint on the wall. That's good.
Yeah, I like your motif. Just put every bit of memorabilia up so you don't even see the darn wall. I like it.
Yeah, it's good. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm glad that we connected last week. I was telling Paul before we were recording here, it's so nice. The CFL stuff is nice for us as a podcast because we can reach out to other media people. We are the XFL media. There's just not a lot. Like I'm in a group chat with like the 6 reporters that cover the XFL. So it is very nice to have people that we can reach out to and be like, hey, you're an expert in this. What do you think? Because, otherwise we're just talking to ourselves. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
First things first, how are you doing during the pandemic? I want to get the sense of your well-being, your mental well-being, health, physical health. How are you doing?
I honestly think it's been over a year now, and obviously a year ago, we had no idea what hit us. Absolutely none. And a year later, we understand, I think, more what we're going through, but the feelings are different now. I think a year ago, it was a very galvanizing moment for a lot of people. And now a year later, we're just sick and tired of this whole thing. But, I think we just have to steady along here. I know here in Alberta and in Edmonton, we're going through what we would call the beginnings of a third wave. We're trying to get as many vaccinations up here as possible. Canada is lagging behind, unfortunately, and that should start to close in, you would hope, a couple of months. But it's tough. And I think every day is kind of the same day in a lot of respects. But, the nice thing is the weather is getting better up here. We've had a pretty good start to spring with some CFL football, hopefully around the corner very, very soon. And but I think a year in, it's a grind, and everyone is affected by this in different ways. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are really, really down in the dumps about this. This is a mental health crisis too. But me personally, my family, we have our tough days, but overall we're doing pretty good.
Good to hear.
So, we've been, obviously, we were fans, all this XFL stuff last year. This comes out, The Rock, we start the podcast. It's all this craziness for the last year. Did this CFL news come as a surprise to you guys as it did to us?
I think the answer is yes, for sure. And because this is something that's always been kind of background talk, I think, for a lot of people up here. Hey, there's this league down south. It's the XFL. It's not the NFL, but it's still pretty good. The CFL could use some help. I know they're trying to, really advance their global initiative with what Commissioner Randy Ambrosi calls CFL 2.0. The pandemic hits and it screws everything up, right? So the CFL didn't play last year, unfortunately. The XFL, and when people say the XFL failed in round 2, they didn't fail. The pandemic put them on ice. If I use a Canadian term, put them on ice. It's not a Canadian term, but there's a lot of ice up here.
Yeah.
But it's a silly notion. So it makes sense that the two are talking. Now, I think what's unfortunate is the over speculation that happened almost instantly. They're going to merge and play games together, and I'm going, whoa, what the heck is going on here, right? So now people kind of who have been reporting on this, and very good people that have been reporting on this, now pumping the brakes and going, well, they are talking. I do believe it's more serious than just talking about talking.
Right.
But I think when you have the power of Dwayne Johnson and you have the power of Redbird Capital with Danny Garcia, I think you have to explore it. And a lot of people are frightened. A lot of people are intrigued. A lot of people are excited. So this has definitely covered all the emotions.
I guess real quick, I'm going to jump in with one more real quick. What is the general perception in CFL media of the XFL just in general? Like, is it a joke? Is it what do you, because believe me, we've had CFL people, defend the CFL to death, hate on the XFL back and forth. So what's your perception?
Well, I think there's some media that are misinformed about the XFL. I don't know if anyone who are criticizing it, how much they watched it, if they watched it more for 5 minutes, if they watched it more for 1 week. But I do think it's very easy for people that cover the CFL to really get a little bit, get their back up and go, well, why would the CFL merge with another failed spring league in the United States? And I'm going, well, I don't think it's that simple. And I do think there's other good media. And I think all the media up here is good. I think everyone does a really good job overall. But I do think there are other media up here that understand the XFL didn't fail. The XFL was felled by the pandemic, like most of the other sports, right? And for the XFL, because they don't have the dollars with the TV money like the NFL or MLB or NBA or even the NHL. NHL to a lesser degree, and they couldn't play. So I think overall the media respects the XFL. I really enjoyed it. I think the first 2-3 weeks were a little tough, but then it got better. I love watching Dexter McCoyle play because he used to play up here for 2 seasons with the Edmonton Football Team and helped the team win a Grey Cup in 2015. So I think overall, I think the XFL gets a bad rap because people just put it in the category of a failed spring football in the United States, and I don't think it failed. So I don't agree with that with that notion that some people have about the XFL being a failure.
Do you think that? How do you think a potential merger, and I might be getting the cart ahead of the horse here, would help expand the CFL game, help expand the reach of the audience, maybe potentially get more dollars from a TV deal?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of avenues the CFL has to explore here. I do think the XFL could help the CFL in marketing, in branding, in things like streaming rights, in a TV deal, perhaps. And I think the CFL can help the XFL in how to operate a league, broadcast. There's a lot of things, staffing, that sort of thing. There's a lot of things that both leagues can help each other. So I do think this has legs. Now, when we talk about a full merger where you would have the XFL and the CFL playing in one league, that's something I just cannot wrap my head around because the logistics are just, they're wild. You can't play games in a lot of places in Canada in March. You just can't. Okay, like you just can't do it, right? It just doesn't work. And the timing of the seasons, where the XFL would like to be wrapped up potentially by August or in sometime in August. Well, the CFL likes playing in the fall because we all say Labor Day is when the season really starts to ramp up. You got the rules, you've got the ratio up here in the CFL with 7 of your starters have to be Canadian, and almost half your roster has to be Canadian. So how do you work with that? So there's a lot of people married to 3 downs. I'm kind of married to 3 downs. I think for overall, that's something that's so fundamental about the CFL, and what's so unique is the 3 down game. But they have discussed up here, the Board of Governors and the CFL and the Competition Committee, how about 4 downs with all the rules intact, here in the CFL? And they haven't gone forward with that. But do I think there's legs here for a partnership? Yeah. For a full merger to have 1 league or 2 leagues become 1, that's going to be really, really difficult for a number of reasons. And a lot of them are just logistical reasons.
How are you feeling about the start of the season and the timing right now? We just got off with Matt Mengel. We followed him. He's a kicker, just got signed to the Alouettes. We followed him through the spring league and stuff down here last year. He was saying that, he doesn't want to get in trouble. He had a players meeting yesterday, and he felt like the mood wasn't wonderful. So how are you feeling about a potential start of the season here? Because training camp should be starting next month, right? And then the kickoff, coming in June, right? Presumably. Yeah.
Traditionally, training camps start mid-May. We don't know if that will happen. There was a report yesterday from a TSN reporter here in Canada, that's Farhan Lalji, who said, and he's really, really good reporter, said that likely mid-May is going to be, or mid-April will be the decision on whether camps start on time. Yeah, players are antsy right now because they're going, we didn't play in 2020. We haven't seen a CFL paycheck since 2019. And a lot of them were hanging by a thread because there was the talks about going to the bubble in Winnipeg and playing a 6-game season in the fall for a couple of months, and then that fell through because the federal government wouldn't give the CFL any basically any assistance to financial assistance. But I do think there is going to be a season. The question is when. The problem with the CFL is they need fans in the stands, and they don't know when that will be a realistic option. Now, there are 3 provinces, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec, that are talking with government and health authorities to kind of lay out a framework to get fans back in the stands. And it won't be full stadiums this year, it'll be limited. But I do think there'll be a season. I think the players are getting very, very antsy about, the timeline. And the CFL issued a proposal, which I don't think this has any legs at all. Well, so we could play a full 18-game season, but without fans, we've asked you to take a 20% pay cut of your salary after we asked you to take pay cuts all throughout the off season. And then once we get fans back in the stands, we'll top up your salaries. And they're going, well, I might as well just retire and go get a job, right? So I don't think that would ever happen, but I do believe there will be a season. The question is when, and I would say by Labor Day for sure we're going to have a season. But I could see, and it all depends on the vaccine rollout here in Canada too. That's very important to the league, because that would allow for fans probably to go back, and that would make the health authorities and governments a lot more comfortable. But I do believe we're going to get a season. It's just when we're going to have a season. Yeah,
I had a follow-up. We're going to play in the show here before we interview you. Dave Naylor was on TSN last night, and he was talking, a lot of these players, have gotten other jobs and have done other things. And like you said, you waited last year, you wait this year, and now, if they're thinking we're going to go in June, well, now we don't know. I got to work, right? We try to have a lot of the players on from the XFL. We just had Ernesto Lacayo's a kicker. He co-hosted with us last week. These guys that do it full time, you can't just wait around and wonder if this is going to happen. So reactions to that, we're going to play that clip with Dave during the show, but where a lot of these players maybe have moved on by the time this comes about.
Yeah, a lot of players did. Now, I don't think it's as many as we thought. I think a lot of players have hung in there a lot more than I thought, or a lot more players have hung on. Now, let's say the worst case scenario is that they actually did cancel the season for some reason. I would say the 80% of the total player roster throughout the league, I would think they'd probably retire. And that's the number I was told, because you're asking them to hang on after 1 lost season, after 2. there's no way they can hang on anymore. But I don't think that is going to happen. So Dave's right. I mean, they are getting antsy. Now, I will say the communication between the league and the players is better, and it's something that it hasn't been that way for the longest time, but it's starting to get better. I do think the league understands that they have asked a lot of the players. They really have. And that's why I'm led to believe there's going to be a season. I mean, when you're asking players and you're telling them every payroll around the league has to be cut by $500,000 or a little bit more. You have executives on teams that have cut their salaries, by 20%. They have really shaved down the staffs, especially at the league office. Like it's down by at least half. And you have two presidents that have basically come out and said, we're going to play. So to me, they're playing. This isn't window dressing. Where I thought last year there's probably maybe a little bit more window dressing and a little bit more leading the players on than this time around. So yeah, I'm with Dave though. The frustration's there, but I think there's an understanding that we're going to have a season. But the league, like we're sitting here wondering what this virus is going to do, in 2 hours from now or tomorrow or next week or next month. We don't know. The leagues don't know. I mean, you look at the major leagues. Around North America. I mean, the NHL, they didn't have final approval to play in Canada till 5 days before the season, and they were going through the training camps. So, it's not simple to work through this virus and come up with a plan. But I don't blame the players for being a little bit antsy, one bit.
What about a bubble? What's been the reaction to put potentially a bubble?
I would say 0 chance, 0%. They don't want that. No, they don't want to have a full season bubble because one, it's very expensive. Two, the players do not get paid enough to get the full buy-in, and that's why the season was going to be so short in Winnipeg. 6-game season plus playoffs and plus training camp before that is that I think the total time in the bubble was going to be 11 weeks, and they even thought that was going to be pushing it. So the bubble concept, I think, is in the back pocket of the league. If they need to use it, they can use it because they've planned for it. But I would say it's a 0% chance we're going to see a bubble. They'll have teams playing out of their stadiums and maybe limit travel, because if you do have to cut your 18-game schedule by 16, 14 to 12 games, hopefully not more than that, then you're probably changing up your cross-country travel. So maybe East doesn't play West and West doesn't play East as much. Maybe you're just playing all your games within your region.
I think what's the reaction I've seen, talking about the pay cut, the 20%, that they're going to reimburse, potentially later, or not reimburse, but move back up when fans come in. A lot of these staff have been on, even if they've taken pay cuts, a lot of these staff have been paid for the last year where the players have not, right? So, I mean, I think that's a frustration too, is it's like, well, yeah, everyone's taking a pay cut, but you've also had a pay cut the last year when I haven't, right? And I'm where it's just so weird where in the NFL, the players do kind of rule the roost, right? We have, Tom Brady making this move and basically shifting the entire landscape of whatever on his shoulders, where I just couldn't imagine in a world where the NFL players don't get paid, but yet, and everyone should get paid, but where they don't, but yet the front end workers do. It just seems weird.
Well, in other leagues like the NFL, when you get into a labor dispute, you have billionaires against millionaires, and usually the billionaires win, but the millionaires, they kind of have their way of getting what they want as well, because they create that much money for the owners. In the CFL, you do have millionaires and billionaires because Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment's a $4 billion company, right? David Braley, the late David Braley, used to own the BC Lions and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and at one point saved the CFL back about 30, 35 years ago. Left gobs of money when he passed away before the end of the year to the BC Lions to operate for years, right? So there's money up here with ownership. But when you look at the CFL, you have millionaires and billionaires against players that make maybe 5-6 digits, right? So it's so unfair. So, but I do think there is a lot more respect between the two sides, especially owners to players. The players have gotten a lot smarter over the years when it comes to labor disputes and collective bargaining, I would say. So yeah, it's usually an unfair playing field. But yeah, there's more power in like the NFL with the NFL player or the NBA player or Major League Baseball player compared to, you know, the CFL world. It's just not comparable.
I have a question. It might be, might be old by this point, but we discussed it in full detail last week. The UFPA putting out that a statement. What was your initial reaction? What are your thoughts a week later about that statement about them hearing there was cancellation looming?
First of all, I'm happy we have Google so I can find out who the UFPA was. I've never heard of them before. And I'm like, what is this? So, I saw the tweet and I text a source I text someone right in the league office and I said, what is this? He's like, no, this is not true. So, I think it just created a little bit of a, what is this? Like, who are these people? And then you find out quickly they're not affiliated with the CFL or the NFLPA. In the media, we have this phrase called chasing ghosts, when you have to chase a story when there's not even a story. So that's all that was. So, it turned out to be a bit of a loud kind of morning or early afternoon for those that cover the CFL and even the XFL. But, it was quickly disputed. And, it was a much ado about nothing, but it's interesting. I learned about a new players union sort of in North America that, I don't know.
One thing, and I think I was listening to the 3 Down podcast, and they were talking about, one of the reasons why the CFL has a longer season, more games, extra bye weeks and stuff is, for more fans to come in for the revenue, right? To kind of bolster that up because you get, you can average more. So, if there's not going to be fans this year or, the whatever with the vaccines and all this stuff, I mean, what is the realistic possibility is of them doing it just a modified, if it's by half, or what is a realistic number that they can still do where it's considered, I guess, a season, but where it's maybe not stretching it out, quite as long as they normally do?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer just because of the question about fans in the stands. But I do believe that the ownerships around the league are okay with having maybe 1, 2, 3 games max with no fans, maybe just to appease the health authorities a little bit more, and then bring in fans after that. So if we're talking like a 9-game season, then you're talking only 6, 7 home games. But then again, you're starting in September if you're doing that, and maybe by that time you can get full stadiums with the shortened season. Maybe not full seasons, but you will be allowed to have some sort of percentage of fans in your stadium. So, or if you feel you can get the approval earlier. Now, when I mentioned the provinces that are asking the governments and health authorities to allow fans in, that's from the NHL level. That's the Edmonton Oilers, that's the Calgary Flames, that's the Montreal Canadiens, that's the Ottawa Senators, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They want fans, and I'm sure the Vancouver Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets are going to follow suit. So the CFL just, they perk right up and go, wow, if they get the approval, then why can't we get the approval? Because we're open air stadiums, and it's been proven that if you're an open air stadium, it's a better environment when you talk about a COVID-19 environment. So I think it's such a hard question to answer. I would tell you the league wants 18 games for sure, just to maximize whatever revenue they can. When can they start that? I don't see a scenario where they could start in June. There was a report up here from Dan Barnes, who writes for a national newspaper called Post Media, that they could start in July, play 18 games, and have kind of a short and compressed schedule. Remember, up here it's normally an 18-game schedule with 21 weeks. That's 3 bye weeks for teams. 3. That's too much, way too much. Now, they did that from the health and safety standpoint, but then the players go back and they go, great, another week I don't get paid, because in the football world, you get paid game by game. So it's a moving target right now as far as when they could play, how many games they could play. They want to play a full 18 with as many games as possible to get fans into the stadiums. So I do think they're going to go for an 18-game schedule, but I could see July training camps and August start. I could see an August start and a September, or August camps, September start. Or I I can't realistically see a June start. I just can't right now because the vaccine rollout up in Canada is a bit murky right now. So where we were getting a lot of them and then it kind of stopped, and now we're kind of getting some trickling in. But the hope is by May more will come in. But is that enough time for the CFL to turn around and get a season going? So my guess is we're going to start probably, I would guess, July, August.
My last question for you today is, where you were talking about, ownership, being okay with, no fans for a couple games. I've seen a lot, all this CFL stuff is new. We're XFL, like we're just happy to kind of, what did we get? Our season got canceled. The Rock comes back. It's the greatest day in the world for us. We're doing laps around the sidewalk. It doesn't seem like the CFL is in a position to like really play hardball on anything yet. A lot, and it's not from from fans, from everybody. I keep hearing this like, well, we'd be okay with this. Well, we'd be okay with this. It's like, well, but what leverage do you have at this point? It's a weird mentality, right?
It is, yes. When you're talking about the people you're dealing with Redbird Capital and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you would seem your level of influence would be diminished, right? Because money is power. I will say this. Dwayne Johnson spent a training camp up in Canada with the Calgary Stampeders, I believe around 1995. The head coach at the time was a fellow by the name of Wally Buono, who is the winningest head coach in CFL history. To this day, Johnson always credits Wally Buono and the CFL and just, he says, if I didn't have that moment, then I wouldn't have become who I am. And, I'm not saying Wally Buono made him The Rock and a WWE superstar and a movie star and a venture capitalist and things like that. But the relationship that was built between Dwayne Johnson and Wally Buono, it's strong, and they still speak today. So I do think Dwayne Johnson respects the CFL, and I don't think he wants to come in here and steamroll all over the tradition. But at the same time, those in Canada that are just, hanging on to the tradition, I think are closed-minded, and I think they're doing a disservice, and that's been a big problem. And we've had this mentality within the Board of Governors in the CFL. It's a unique league because you have 3 teams that are community-owned, including the Edmonton Football Team. And those 3 are Edmonton Football Team, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Saskatchewan Roughriders. And they make up half the revenue of the league almost. Then you have 3 teams that are single-owned. And then you have another 3 teams that have groups, and they're worth billions of dollars, right? So it's not like there's no money in this league and that they can't look up, stand up to Danny Garcia and to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and go, hey, we have no money. They can show them their bank accounts and they would be very impressed. So I think there is a big time respect from Dwayne Johnson about the CFL. If there is a full merger, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea. June Jones, who coached in Houston in the XFL and coached up here in Hamilton for the Tiger Cats, on a podcast up here, he mentioned probably 4 downs, but a lot of the Canadian rules. So there's a lot of people within the XFL that like the game in Canada. The game in Canada is fine. The business is not. We're not in the world of philanthropy anymore. Where I own a team because it's cool. It's great. Go come in my garage and look at my nice Ferrari, which is breaking down. And it's then, and I can't afford to fix it because I don't want to. We have to start making money if you're a CFL owner. The business has to be stronger. And if it can be that way under or with, I will say, Danny Garcia and Dwayne Johnson, because I don't think they want to just take their thumb and just press on the CFL and go, we're going to squeeze you for everything you got. I think there is a real mutual respect here. I think Danny Garcia loves the global outreach that Randy Ambrosi has implemented with CFL 2.0. She likes that. Dwayne Johnson likes that. So we'll see where this goes. It's hard to think about a full merger again, but I can see a partnership for sure in the beginning. I think the full merger thing, that might take, if it ever happens, that might take a lot more time than people think.
Awesome. Dave Campbell, we appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on, chatting with us about the CFL. Looking forward to talking to you a lot more as this thing kind of unfolds.
Paul, Reed, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I would love to do it again.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe up there.
You betcha. You too.
Yo,
What's up, man? Thanks for coming on.
how you doing, man?
We're good. I said I need to quit sending you my Call of Duty highlights and actually get you on the show. We had Ernesto on last week.
Hell yeah.
And he said you guys were hanging, and I figured this would be a great just talking CFL stuff. So how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. Every day is a good day when you wake up and have breath in your lungs. So I can't really complain, bro.
Good to hear. Good to hear. You just signed with the Alouettes, I'm seeing.
Yeah, I signed with them about a month and a half ago. Yeah.
Congratulations
Yes,
on that. What was the process like going through that?
Dude, the process has been long as heck. It's taken me 5 years to finally sign a pro contract. I mean, we signed with the spring league, but I mean, when we talk about like pro contract, we talk about like an established league and funding and all kinds of stuff like that. So, it was amazing, dude. From all the NFL workouts I've had to the XFL workouts I've had to then, I actually got a call from BC asking if I would be interested in signing with them. And I said I'd be interested. So they put me on their negotiation list. And then a week later, the Alouettes called me and said, yo, BC took you off your negotiation list, their negotiations list. Would you be interested in signing with us? And I said, hell yeah. Like, dude, let's go. And if you offered me a contract tonight, I'd sign it and I'd be up there playing for you this season. Because me and my agent has been told that we would possibly have camp invites from the Colts and the Bills, but I don't want to wait. I wanted to sign something. I'd rather not go off of just word of mouth and actually go with something super certain. So I told him, I said, look, if you offered me a contract and sent over numbers tonight, me and my agent will look over it. We'd negotiate and I would sign. And over the next 2 days, everything was finalized and I signed with the Alouettes.
Yeah.
How many years did you sign for? Just one?
2 with an opt out of 1. So on both parties, after the first year, I can opt out or they can opt out.
It's so hard because I know, and your friend Brian Scott, we followed him, and I know he had to try it with the Colts a while back too. And it is so just like uncertainty where you kind of got to go with, what's offered in front of you right now versus it's this whole game that we've been covering, all you players for months now. It's like, what's the best route to go,
I was actually talking to the successor of my job at UCLA is now signed to BC. His name's Stefan Flintoff. And I talked to him after I signed and said, so what is your goals? Is your goals to use the CFL to get to the NFL? Or is it what is your focus? And he was like, bro, if I signed a 15-year contract with the CFL, I would stay here because job security. And that really like hit me. And I was like, dude, like I'm getting paid to play football. Like
it's the dream.
Who in the world gets to say that? Especially in my position where I get to do all 3 duties, which I've been training my butt off this whole time. Like, not many, dude. There's not many in America that can even do all 3. So, like, when he told me, like, job security, I was like, you know what? Like, job security. Like, I'm so confident in my craft right now that I'll go up against anybody in camp, and I know I'll beat them out. So, it was just that hit home for me, man. That I would rather just go off of certain instead of uncertain.
We know there's like, different rules in terms of kicking extra points and stuff like that. Have you ever practiced that kind of stuff? Have you ever gone through that kind of stuff?
I've seen the highlights where like someone missed a field goal or something and then like they caught the football and kicked it back out in the end zone. And that's trippy to me. But I mean, hashes are like high school hashes, a little bit wider, I think, maybe like a foot wider than high school hashes. It's NFL posts. Really, it's mostly just aesthetic wise. I've already talked to the team and they said if I hit 5-0 punts instead of driving them, so CFL's really only seen driven punts. They really haven't seen a punter that could go up there and hit a 50-yard ball with like a 5-0 hang. They like it like a 50-yard ball with like a 4-0 hang because they have the halo rule and they don't want to get penalties. But I've mentioned to my football operations manager, like, can I come up there and hit NFL punts? And he was all for it. He said, if our team gets penalties, that's on our team. Like, that's on them, not on you. You go and just drop bombs and we'll cover. They're really heavy in direction, which the NFL is already heavy in direction. So the only thing that I can't do is kick it out of bounds prior to the 20-yard line. So that's what I've been really focusing on. I've been really focusing on trying to hug the sideline with insane winds. I'll try to go out late in the day over here in Cali because that's when we get like bad winds on fields because they're mostly open. So I'll go out and then I'll really like challenge myself, and I've been really honing my punting in on that. But field goals, I mean, it's just a harsher angle. So aesthetically, I mean, every kick's supposed to go straight anyways. So aesthetically, it's just visually how a kick looks instead of just on terms of angles. It's not anything more. I will say though, like a 50-yard kick on those type of hashes feels like a 60-yard kick. I feel like it adds way more distance to it. So the respect I have for American specialists in the CFL is gone way up.
What did you think? You know, obviously you signed, and then all this has come out the last couple of weeks about potential, the CFL, XFL, all this stuff. I mean, you know, we talked with Ernesto last week about it. I mean, just as players and people that, you know, bounce around these leagues. I mean, what did you think of all that? And obviously heading to, you know, to Canada now.
I don't know what to think about it, honestly. I think it's an amazing opportunity to make football a global sport instead of just basically really, I mean, America's just dominating. You talk about like sponsorships, viewership, content, like in America, football, that's America's sport. In Canada, I think it's its second sport. And actually Canada invented football from what I've been told. It's been longer in Canada than in America. But if the XFL could somehow take this sport global, and now you got global teams, I think the opportunity is limitless, man. I think there's a lot of doubt, though, in terms of the merger. I think there's just so much stuff that needs to be figured out before they can even think about merging, man. There's just all the way down to like legal stuff, like insurances to player insurances to salaries to, I don't know, man. It's just so much. But I mean, I think the business, like the possibilities of business wise of it happening could really make football global. And that would be absolutely amazing.
Given the fact that the CFL didn't play last year, did that cause you any concern with signing with the Alouettes?
Hell yeah. I had major doubts. I actually told my agent, I was like, look, like they didn't play this year. What are the chances they don't play that? Like they didn't play last year. What are the chances they don't play this year? And he was like, Matt, job security. So I'd rather be signed to a football team and have that opportunity than continuously be in an oversaturated market where kickers and punters are continually overlooked by NFL teams and having to deal with the politics of football. I would rather have job security and know that I'm in a situation where I can go and play and be on a team and just even have a name just on my resume saying, dude, like I signed a 2-year contract with the team, whether money's great, whether it's not great. Like I could say like I'm on a team right now. I have that under my belt. And that's just the first step of becoming closer to either the NFL or the possible merger with the XFL-CFL stuff. I have job security now. So yeah, there was doubts. I was scared, like honestly, and it didn't really hit me that I was like, man, like I'm going to go play pro football now. But now I'm only focused on camp, man. I'm only focused on getting out there and dominating whatever I need to dominate, doing whatever the coach tells me to do, and just being the best I could be.
Have you, we obviously had the whole stuff last week, Kenneth Farrow and the United Football Players, that whole controversy. He came on our show. We did the whole thing about that. Have you heard anything that gives you pause for this year? I mean, are you just moving ahead and not worrying about that?
I'm hearing all kinds of stuff, and I don't want to be that one person that came on a podcast that got exposed.
And that's not targeted. No, and that's not what we're trying to do.
I could tell you stuff that I know, but then I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, no, and we don't want that.
I'm excited to play football.
Yeah.
But we did have a players meeting yesterday with the Canadian Football Players Association, basically like the NFLPA here, their players association up there. I just took a survey this morning asking me specific questions that they make me unhappy, but at the same time, bro, I'm in a position where I can't complain. I get to play football professionally, and there should be no reason why I'm complaining about getting paid to play football. So, I mean, either way I look at it, I need to look at it in the utmost gratefulness that God and the universe has blessed me with the opportunity to play football. And that's how it is. I would say the state of the CFL right now is still uncertain whether they're going to have an on-time start or a delayed start. It's everything we went through in the meeting yesterday, it seemed like everything was still up in the air. So I read the room when they asked about the player cut for salary, and I don't think no one wants that. So I'm in the position where I'd say yes to anything and just go up there and get the film I need to come back down and try to pitch to an NFL team if anything were to happen. So I'm just in the position now where I just want to go play football, dude. I really don't care what the hell happens. But everything's kind of still in discussions from the meeting that we had yesterday.
Did your time at TSL, do you think, getting taped down there, and of course you're breaking your own record for the longest field goal, do you think how much of a factor do you think that had in terms of getting you this opportunity?
I'll put something into perspective for you. There's thousands of free agents out there that say they could kick footballs. The only type of exposure a free agent kicker has, and a free agent punter has, or a free agent long snapper has, is going to these combines that they have once or twice a year, where they're put in situations where they only hit one punt every 20 minutes in front of all these NFL scouts, and they're just hoping and praying and basically on their hands and knees hoping for a chance that a scout says, you know what, I like this guy, like, let's bring him in. That's what our market is like. So going to something where it provided me the opportunity to do punting and kicking on live television in front of hundreds of thousands to millions of people during COVID, and I was able to be the best performer in that situation, literally gave me all the leverage I needed to sign a contract. As soon as I was sent home after the first COVID outbreak happened, before the championship game happened, the Colts called me and were actually going to fly me up when their punter came out and said he had cancer. They were going to fly me up and compete with, I think it's Ryan Allen. They wanted me to compete with an NFL veteran to start that next week. LA didn't have flights to be sent out. So I couldn't get there in time to start my COVID protocol in order to have one practice to compete to start in the next game. So that kind of screwed me. But I was right there. After the championship game, the Bills called and told me that they wanted to bring me up, and I was on their short list and to stay tight. But when Tristan Vizcaino actually went 3 for 3 on field goals with the Niners, they brought him in over me. They wanted to be more sure. They would rather just have a sole kicker come in instead of an all three. And basically their scout told my agent, like, it was a split decision in the room. And ultimately the owner wanted to go with someone who was proven in the NFL than someone who wasn't yet. So just to know that I had that all because of the spring league. I had 2 playoff NFL teams calling me saying, like, we're ready to bring you in. And then just politics kind of got in the way. That and there tells me that the spring league, it was more effective for me than any other combine has ever been for me. So I think what Brian Woods has done with the spring league, and what he's trying to do at the spring league offers way more exposure than what I've been in this oversaturated market this whole 5 years of my experience.
Well, that's good but that's great for us to hear. I mean, Brian's going to be coming on the show here a week after next, getting all the stuff ready for May. So, I mean, it's great for us as a podcast that does cover the spring league and these, alternative things. It's great to know that, right? That you feel like that time was worthwhile and got you that shot that maybe you wouldn't have had. So, I mean, that, validates it to me that we're not wasting our time covering that stuff, because it is great to get the exposure for everybody for sure.
Hell yeah. That guy really cares about getting dudes to the next level. And he may not show it publicly or social media wise or anything, but I know in his heart, everybody that's in the spring league, he hopes gets a shot. And really, he doesn't even get a percentage of whatever they do. He hasn't gotten anything from anybody I know that's been picked up. So it's literally out of the goodness of his heart, honestly. I really like that dude. He's helped me a lot in my career.
I think it's a situation where it's he can look back and go, it's almost like a resume builder for him in a sense. Not saying that he's using you to boost his name, but he can look back and say, I helped this person get here and this person get there. And that person, that one person, whether it be you or someone else, could get that big break and do something major on the scale. And I think maybe can sleep at night going, I got that person that opportunity, and maybe that's why he does it.
That's living a life of abundance and providing opportunity for people. And if someone asks for help, you give them help. That's been my motto for a long time. So I completely agree with that statement. That's a good way to live if you're living like that.
So what's next? I mean, a lot of uncertainty, obviously keeping your head down. I know you're out there all the time. I mean, all you guys, you, Ernesto, I mean, everyone that, we follow online every day kind of grinding. I mean, what do you just keep your head down? Do you have any idea of when you're heading up yet? I mean, again, we're not trying to get anyone in trouble with anything, just trying to see what you have going on in the future here.
There's a lot that needs to go on before the CFL starts. Just the players, if it were to be the players' pay cut, that's not all that needs to happen before this starts. I know that they had a vaccine up there that ended up hurting and I think hurting people so bad that they actually lost a lot of lives because of a certain vaccine up there. I'm not sure if that's true, but I did hear that from my wife. So I know the United States gave them a lot of vaccines, but they still need to vaccinate a ton of people. And I know provinces haven't even begun discussing health guidelines in order to have season. So there's way more that needs to go on besides just the players' cut. The players' cuts to me is just minuscule to what needs to happen for them to have a season. But to the hundreds and hundreds of players that want to be playing football, they're seriously pushing to play football. I think the coaches want to play football. I think that if the CFL goes without having a season one more time, I don't think that they'll bounce back from it. What was the question again? Sorry.
No, you did good. That was good.
It's great stuff.
It's just a lot.
Planning on heading up.
Yeah, heading up.
What? I've been quadrupling down on my training. My mindset is just be undeniable right now. So whether it's taking that mindset through a lift or through kicking one rep on a field goal to training with the appropriate people I need to train with to feed off of and compete against, whether it's NFL guys, XFL guys, free agents, trying to find that niche to get that fuel to compete. My mindset is I have to be 100% prepared for any and absolutely any situation for them to bring in Justin Tucker and to compete with me type stuff. That's what my mindset is. From what they told me and the opportunity I'm going to have, I'm still taking it as I I literally have to lay everything on the line and show them, look, like I am the best punter in America. I'm the best kicker in America. And that's why you have me here in Canada playing and doing all three positions for you. So my mindset is literally nothing could get in my way. That's how I take my trainings. That's how I take my lifts. I'm even transferring that over with my gaming organization. Like I'm literally trying to mimic that mindset in every single thing I do. And if there's a situation in life where like I'm going out to dinner with someone I don't like in the family, to friends that I feel like would take that mindset away from me, I try to exclude it all out of my life. And I'm trying to maintain 100% consistent with that mindset. So going up there right now, it's the only focus I have. And every kick, every morning I wake up, I'm visualizing making game winners and dropping bombs. And dude, I'm just the fire. I wish I could share with you. It's intense, dude. My life is intense as heck right now.
You mentioned your gaming organization. How did you get into that? What's the story on that?
I had a group of friends that we would play Call of Duty with, the last Call of Duty. And they're like, Matt, do you think if you paid for this, can you get us into something called the Amateur World Series? I said, let me make a few calls, made a few calls, got them in the Amateur World Series. From there, we quickly realized that I was not good enough to play in that. So we found other players. And all in all, it turned out we finished like third out of like 20-something teams. And then from there, I figured, dude, what if we started a gaming organization? So for 3 months, we planned out, and actually I submitted the paperwork for an LLC and trademarked my logo. And then boom, I had a gaming organization competing in Call of Duty. My mentor, David Meltzer, he owns the Toronto Ultra, and he linked me with one of the owners of FaZe Clan, David Chen. So now I'm intermingling with people who have been in Forbes nearly 20 plus times, that have esports organizations, media outlets for esports organizations that I had no idea had all this connection to esports. And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, I have this and they have that. Like, dude, I'm learning everything I can and I'm making this a business. I had no idea that they even did that. It just kind of, I don't know, the universe was just like bang, bang, bang. And now I'm here and now I have this business. Where am I going with it? So I actually signed a couple kids that were unknown in the COD community that were amazing. They ended up getting T16 recently, top 16 in the world for Call of Duty competitively. Everything's just been kind of taken off from there. I've been signing some streamers, pushing the brand out. We just secured a partnership with Sector 6 Apparel, who is one of the high-end apparel companies that do partnerships with top esports orgs. My buddy came in from the Dallas Cowboys and decided that he wanted to fund everything. And he's one of my best friends. And it's going like wildfire. It's crazy. We love video games. Like almost all athletes, like literally when they get home from practice, would rather just sit and play games instead of go out and get in trouble and go out to parties and, paparazzi, that shit. Video games keep us straight, dude. So, and we can compete on them. So it's always keeping that mindset going and stuff. So it's crazy. And, yeah, man. Well, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. I love it because, I'm not very good, but I do. If I am ever proud at all of anything that I do, I like to tag you and send it your way. Just like that's my one.
Do it, man. I love it.
My one friend on there. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, not trying to get anyone in trouble with anything. I think you were great with everything and just working hard.
I hope so. We get a call from the CFL. So what the hell are you talking about?
No, at all. But no, I appreciate it. And just like I said, we followed you since the spring league, last year, and just that whole world and. All these players, I love catching up and finally getting you on the podcast. So thank you so much.
Yeah, if I could be of assistance in helping you find or get anybody else on that you want, maybe an Alouette player or even an NFL player, let me know. I'll try to see if I can reach out to them. We know a lot of guys. So, yeah, man, appreciate you letting me shout out my org too. It means a lot.
Of course, man. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Matt.
Of course. You guys have a great, blessed day, man.
Thank you.
How's it going, lads?
We're good. We've been looking forward to this. We have the official Paul Sanchez Stan account now. How's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad. How about you guys?
Doing great. Staying healthy. I got my first shot. I'm really happy about that.
I got my first one 2 weeks ago now.
Oh, congrats. What did you end up with?
Pfizer. Team Pfizer.
Oh, jealous. I got Moderna. So I was down for a day. I was hurting so bad. It was like I did a leg day at the gym after not going for 2 years, but all over.
See, mine was like, I've heard the second shot will absolutely just like wallop you.
Yep.
But the first one for Pfizer, it put me on my ass for like a day, but then I bounced back. Like,
lucky.
Well, this is good. So to set the stage, and we're going to do this in the show too, but we had Dave Campbell on, he covers Edmonton. We had Matt Mengel as a player. And now I love this with you, with the Reddit community, because I want to get this way. We've got all our bases covered this week. We've got, the press, we've got the players, and then we've got the internet. So what has it been like the last 2 weeks? Help moderate the CFL Reddit board up there. What has it been like since the XFL has invaded your world?
I mean, as a fan, it's been like insanity just because like my phone is buzzing nonstop because I have like obviously the Reddit community and the Twitter account both tied to my phone. So I'll be sitting at work and my notifications are just like all day. From a pure analytics point of view, like it's been insane. Like we've had people from the NFL, people who are not traditionally football fans, XFL fans, CFL fans who've kind of like fallen out of favor with the league, all rushing back in and just like shooting our numbers through the roof. Like it's been insane, like absolutely insane. Like with the community, it's me and a bunch of other strapping, good looking dudes running it. And it's like, it's slowly encroaching on our full-time jobs, just having to contain all of it. But it's been exciting. It's been awesome.
What personally, are you in favor of this thing? Let's just get it out of the way. Are you in favor of this merger?
Yeah.
So I need to cover my bases just because like my posting history, you can dig into it. Originally, I wasn't. Like I was a Canadian, like I bleed maple syrup and like I wanted the CFL to say the CFL. And in the past, we had all these people pop up and say things like, oh, like the XFL and CFL should merge, the CFL and the AFL should merge, the CFL should become NFL Canada and just be the de facto D League. And I was very staunchly, no, keep my Canadian football Canadian. But I'm also a realist and I understand the reality of the situation. And through the Reddit community, like I've been able to build contacts within the league office. I told you, Reed, that like I did work for the league for a brief period of time. TSN reporters, which is essentially our ESPN, people who work in the actual teams, and talking to them and realizing just how dire things are with the CFL right now. I basically come to the conclusion that I would much rather football in Canada survive through a merger with the XFL than no football at all. So to answer your question, I guess, is like, I'm for it right now. If it's going to save our league, if it's going to inject capital into our league, and if it's going to ensure that I can go to my Red Blacks games every weekend up in Ottawa, let's do it. Like, let's merge.
Did you have any familiarity with XFL before all this came about?
So I wasn't a football fan. So I'm 29. I wasn't a football fan in 2001. My football fandom started in around 2009-ish, 2010, after playing it a bit in high school and watching my local university go to the Vanier Cup, which in Canada is our college championship. So that kind of all kicked it off for me. But I do have early memories, obviously, like He Hate Me and just like the crazy instead of the coin toss where they were just like running and giving themselves concussion diving on the ball. And then when XFL 2.0 first launched, I was talking with a few people in the league and they were, how do I phrase this? They were more weary of XFL 2.0 than they ever were the AAF. just because like the innovations, and it seemed more like a polished, legitimate product, where AAF, like there was rumors of things popping up every other day, and like, were they funded? Were they not funded?
Yeah.
So my interest was piqued, and I watched a bunch of the games during 2.0 before everything shut down. So that's my general, I'm not like too in depth of the understanding of the mechanics of it, but like I have a general understanding of where you guys are at.
What's been the outcry? You know, I've seen a lot of, and we just had Dave on. It seems like, you know, CFL people, it's you know, crying foul where they're really holding on to this, right? And that's great too. I mean, we've said, you know, the first time that they announced this, like, we're not XFL Mark, like rules, like I don't care. I mean, we cover fan control football. It's on Twitch. They're throwing stuff. Right? So like, but if the league is dying, right, or if they're running out of money, like you can't. I mean, what hill are we dying on here?
Yeah, and that's kind of been my argument when I've been conversing with a lot of people, is like, if the league is dying, what's the point of dying on this hill? Like, we're either going to shoot our shot merging and it might work, or we're going to be dead, or we're going to keep going the way we're going to go and we're going to be dead. But I think you see a lot of the pushback is because for a lot of people, the CFL is like as Canadian as hockey, as Don Cherry, as Wayne Gretzky. Like it's a huge, huge part of our identity. So all these merger talks have just essentially been making people incredibly anxious that this huge part of their identity is about to go by. So
I get it. I mean, I'm heavy into baseball, played at every level. And the whole idea of like statistics coming in and being so important to the baseball game is making me like, I'm a 42-year-old man. I'm like, wait, what is this crap? Like bunts are a part of the game and that kind of thing. So I completely get the traditional aspect of this. So with that being said, how do you think it's going to, if they do merge, if there's a merger that happens, and let's just say they adapt the Grey Cup as the championship for the entire league, which
I'm in favor for.
How do you think that's going to play out when the first XFL team wins that Grey Cup?
So I think like you guys are obviously familiar with the U.S. expansion back in the early 90s. Yeah. So I think it depends on how they align it. If they're going to keep the CFL and the U.S. as two different divisions, I think personally that would be great TV, because when Baltimore went to the Grey Cup twice in 95 and then won it in 96, or went in 94 and won in 95. Either one of those.
That sounds right.
Yeah. It was very much just Canada versus the US. And I there's this weird dichotomy in Canada where like anytime we do something better than you guys, we just love to boast about it. Like we love it. We love the whole Canada versus US narrative as much as our countries are very much friends and very much on amazing terms. So I think realistically, if something like that happened again, it would just be a huge boon for both leagues, or especially here in Canada. I don't know how much it would be received in the US, because I feel like you guys every now and then think of us as an afterthought until Drake or some other famous Canadian pops up. But yeah.
It's just interesting because, the CFL is, XFL, 01, we were there. It's kind of a joke, 2.0 comes about and it's all this, they spent, I don't know why Vince didn't just, except for just his vendetta of wanting to prove that he was right, call it something else, right? I mean, there's so much baggage on, terrible baggage on all this from the 2000s, where the CFL is so tied to like the Canadian identity. It's just weird how both these leagues exist, and there's just such a different stigmas to both of them.
Definitely. I think like the biggest thing that I'm worried about right now is now this is more so for the older generation, is if the rules change dramatically, a mass amount of the season ticket holders for every team across the country are going to go. Like they don't want to see 4 down. They don't want to see 100-yard fields. Like they don't want any of that. They want their 3 downs. They want their motion. They want all that fun stuff. But the only saving grace I see in that is with Canada, because we're just so exposed to US marketing. Like we get blasted by the NFL's marketing machine. For every 10 times we see an NFL ad, we might see one CFL ad. my only solace in that potential move would be it could reinvigorate the young Canadian football fans to start coming out and start supporting their teams and start doing all that. So it's a balancing act. Everything about this to me is just going to be one giant balancing act. And if everything that I've heard and everything that's out in the media is true, this is it. Like, we have to try this. And if it doesn't work, well, we were going to die anyway.
Do you think you said that if they do adopt XFL, you think that there's going to be a revolt?
I think there'll be a big revolt in the older fans, in like your 50 plus who grew up with the CFL, not the millennials to Gen Z who, I mean, out of my friend group, I'm probably the only like one true CFL fans. The other ones passively watch, but they're not fully into it. I think their interest might get piqued, but it would be game over for a lot of the Gen Xers and boomers.
That's interesting you say Gen Xers, because I identify as Gen X. I'm right there on the edge. And I think like, well, I've seen some CFL games here and there. I would not necessarily revolt against changing the game to make it more marketable and get a better TV deal. I keep coming back to that because I was just heard about the TV deal, and it sticks with me because I'm just like, that's such a small amount to pay for something that's got such a heritage.
It is, but it's not. I forget who was it. Rod, who you guys were talking to, who told you about the TV? Yeah, it's not in the scope of, if you understand like the money moving through Canadian media markets. Like, I think the biggest media buy any company has ever done in this country is when Rogers bought the rights for the NHL, and they spent, I believe, just over $2 billion. And after that happened, they basically had to slash a giant chunk of their company because they paid so much. So media deals in this country aren't insane. Like, we just saw the NFL sign, $110 billion deal for the next 10 years. So I think putting that in perspective with the number that the CFL is getting, and understanding that games on average range between 600 to 700,000 Canadians. It's not outrageous. I mean, me personally, I'm a CFL homer. Like, I think it should be $1 billion every year to the league. But again, putting it in perspective, it does make a lot of sense why that number's there. And it has, every new broadcasting deal has gone up and up and up and up and up with TSN.
I just don't feel like there's such a big difference between a $2 billion deal for the NHL and that number that we got for the CFL. There's just such a big gap.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah, it's massive.
And I don't understand that.
Yeah, we were we're going to record the bulk of our show here after this. One of the talking points, with the new NFL deal is one NFL game basically equates to the budget that the CFL gets for the whole season. One. And like, just in that perspective alone, I mean, American dollars and Canadian and viewership and, the population and all of that aside, like, that is astounding that one NFL game could be, the whatever Thursday night leftover game, the rights for that equals, the whole. It's crazy.
I remember, and there's a certain segment of the Canadian media population that just loves to crap on the CFL. I can point you to a few of them if you'd like to interview some of them. But one of the articles that sticks out in my mind is when Drew Brees signed his last deal. In 1 year, he was making more than every single CFL player. They're like, all their salaries combined, Drew Brees was still making more. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess my last question today, and we'll probably follow up with you at some point, later when we know more stuff here, is I'm really, and hearing you talk today about, the older people and the younger and the losing money, like, I don't know if there is a win here where, like, if the XFL comes in, people are going to revolt. If they don't, the CFL is running out of money. They don't have anywhere else to go. I just don't know where this is going, where it's going to appease everybody except XFL fans that just want to see the XFL, I guess, continue.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, I think they'll come around. Like, everyone's adverse to change. Nobody wants something they love to change, but reality of life is things need to change. Things need to evolve. And if we want football in this country, we need to change and evolve. One of the big things that I've been parroting, especially on Twitter, though, is I keep seeing people saying like, oh, what can the XFL bring to the CFL? Or, oh, what can the CFL bring to the XFL? And for me, it's been insanely obvious. And this might just be because I've seen the inner workings of the CFL and how it works. But the CFL needs marketing. They go to the CFL staff directory when we get off the call, look for a single person who is hired or currently working with the CFL right now who works in marketing. There's one. And it's a C-suite executive level position. They have no marketing personnel on staff anymore. When I worked there, their marketing department was in shambles. And I'm not talking social media. I'm not talking communications. Communication, social media, and marketing, completely different things. I'm talking purely marketing people. They don't have any. The CFL needs marketing. The CFL has always needed marketing. Their marketing sucks. We had to bully them. The Reddit community had to bully the CFL. And we've done this a few times. We had to bully them to get a TikTok account. And now I understand TikTok, the impression is, oh, it's for 15-year-olds, right? But TikTok has 1 billion users now. And what demographic is the CFL missing? The younger fans. We as a community should not have to bully you. On the flip side, the XFL needs established operations, history, all that stuff, which the CFL has. So the more we dive into this, I guess, thought experiment of an actual merger happening, on paper, it makes sense why the XFL and the CFL need each other. The Rock and Redbird Capital and all that can provide a massive marketing arm where the CFL can come in and provide this wealth of operational knowledge. And on paper, it should work. Will it work or will it even happen? We don't know. But
it's just tough. I don't know. The deeper we get into this and like I said, we're not the XFL marks, but it's at some point, rubber hits the road and you got to kind of get your stuff together. And if it's bleeding out and you got to, I don't know. I just don't know what it's going to be fascinating. I mean, I'm glad we were going to cover the CFL anyway before all this XFL stuff came about, and now it's certainly become, like you said, a full-time job as well, trying to kind of keep up and manage all this stuff.
Now, are you guys for or against the merger?
I'm for it.
You're for it?
I'm for it. I think, like you said, I think we're on the same page where the Grey Cup could be something that's adapted as the league's title. I don't know about a Canada versus US divisions, maybe split it half
East-West.
Yeah. And the way you get variations of, there could be 2 Canadian teams playing for the Grey Cup still. There could be 2 US teams playing for the Grey Cup. I think the East to West divisions might work better in terms of travel and in terms of potentially getting a Canada versus Canada team matchup in the Grey Cup, which would make, of course, Canadian fans happy.
I think some of the rivalries too. I don't know if the XFL plans on coming back with the teams that were originally launched, but one of the things I've seen all over Twitter and just in the community is a BC versus Seattle rivalry would be just amazing.
Yeah.
I
mean, look at MLS. So we have the Whitecaps and the Sounders. That's part of a serious that soccer rivalry up there in the Pacific Northwest between Portland and Vancouver and Seattle. It's massive. It's massive. So I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, it's just tough because where the XFL is singular owned, all these teams and the CFL is not even that, it's a mix and you have these owners or whatever. So that's my thing is because I would say, you just run them separate, give Redbird, 40% or whatever of the CFL on the marketing. But at that point, you can't do that because you have all these different teams and stuff and the ownership and, you have old money up there and maybe they don't want to why would I want to let go if I've got whatever until it's in the ground. So.
Awesome. Braydon from CFL Reddit. We appreciate your time. Appreciate your
time. Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm sure we're going to be talking to you very soon here. If any other news breaks.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be all over it.
Yeah, we'll be chatting. I appreciate you, and I think it's a good connection, and I think it's a good angle for us to take. I think it's on brand for us to do this today.
Awesome.
So.
And of course, I have to mention this. I appreciate you being a stan of Photog Pitch. I have to appreciate that. I'll give you a shout out for that.
Well, I'm trying. I'll see if I can try and make it an ice cream level meme in the community for you.
That's
great news. Do I get any Timbits with that? Or
you might get Timbits. We might be able to ship you guys some free healthcare and maple syrup. So let me go talk to Justin Trudeau and like we'll figure it out.
Sounds good, man. We're shipping you vaccines. You ship us some Timbits. We're all
exactly.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Take care, guys.
Yeah. See ya.
All right. Want to thank our guests, Braydon, Matt Mengel, and of course Dave Campbell, all for coming on, chatting with us about CFL, their stuff. Like Matt specifically, his stuff, his gaming stuff seems really interesting. A great kid, Matt. Braydon's a great kid too. I forget sometimes how old I am, and I'm like, oh, they're great kids, And then Braydon running the CFL community on Reddit, doing a great job over there. And of course, I appreciate the Stan account shout out from Braydon.
Yeah, I think so. Now that we're through the XFL stuff, I think we're going to be a little more casual now. I feel like
I don't know. I see something coming up that might fire me up again.
I know, but I feel like we're getting a lot of CFL stuff. I wanted to point out two things. First off, do I sound better with my windscreen?
You do, and I also I want to compliment your jersey.
Well, I was going to get to that too. Matt Lyons, when you retweet the episode today, I want you to tell me how I sound with my new windscreen because Matt does audio work as well. And I was thinking about this. Matt or Jenna are 1-1 for longest time fan. I don't know, like it's 1A and 1B. I might have to go back and check the tape, but I was thinking Matt Lyons and Jenna 1-1. We're going to have to figure out who is the longest time fan. And yes, I also have this is my official one. I got my Chinese knockoff one and it was terrible. The XFL or the NFL logo is sideways, but that jersey is going to be included in all the fun stuff that we give away when we hit 1,000 subscribers. So a lucky listener is going to get the Chinese bootleg Taylor Heineke jersey when we get to that point. But this is my official one. What do you think?
I like it. I dig it a lot. I actually picked up, there was a sale. I got a Kevin Durant jersey on the way because I'm really excited about my Brooklyn Nets. I also got a friend of mine, Rello, Jonas. I got him because we make this joke about the I don't know if you've seen the video where the guy that sounds like Michael Rappaport, I'm pretty sure it's not Michael Rappaport, gets all excited about gets pissed the fact that the Knicks drafted Kristaps Porzingis, and he's like, who the F is this? Tingus Pingus. So I got my friend Rello a Tingus Pingus jersey as a gag gift.
I saw that. Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to wear that thing to the Garden the minute they let fans back in. So yeah, I'm buying jerseys too.
I will say I'm all in on Washington football this year with Fitz, Heineke. We got Chase Young. Like I'm all in. I'm 100% on the Washington football team.
Okay. I mean, you have a football team just down the street, but okay.
Well, I can have two, and they can be in the same. That's fine. They can be in the same division. But I'm with it, and I've got Fourth and Long podcast. They were talking about Fitz this week. Going on, they're friends. They like everything that we ever post. And I said, when Heineke leads Washington football to a playoff win this year, I want to come on the podcast. And they said I can come on. So shout out to Fourth and Long
when that happens.
Yeah. Just a couple quick notes about Spring League. Brian Woods is confirmed to come on, not next week, but the week after. Jake Henry, we talked about this last week with Ernesto, but there's a little bit more info coming out. A lot of people are thinking that the Spring League and all the little stuff that Brian's working on, they're going to be 8 teams connected to cities, maybe a couple, like 2 different bubbles. Like you got 1-1. Seth, friend of the show, he's been tweeting a lot about this as well. And Jake, Brian, I guess with the Spring League is acquiring these old USFL trademarks. So like the New Orleans Breakers, Houston Gamblers, Michigan Panthers, Dallas Stallions, Pittsburgh Maulers. I like that name. St. Louis Invaders. Jake Henry's happy about that because Jake's a Battlehawks fan. Tampa Bay Bandits and Memphis Showboats. They're all kind of over on that side. What do you think about this? You're nodding.
I mean, if people are going to knock the XFL for their baggage, these names have baggage too. They do. Yeah. They do have a little bit of baggage too. I mean, people still remember how the USFL bankrupted itself with that Steve Young deal. And I mean, not for nothing, it's not political, but at the same time, Donald Trump was also very instrumental in the downfall of USFL. So, I mean, it's interesting. The names are great. I like the names, but I hope there's no baggage attached to it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. where are the jousters? That's who I want. I don't care about the maulers. Bring me back the jousters. I don't know. It'll be really curious to talk to Brian because it really depends on how big he wants to go with this, because there's a very big difference between doing 4 uncitied teams in San Antonio in the bubble versus,
Travel.
And teams attached to cities and, doing, it's just, we'll see. Brian's coming on. I have verbal or written confirmation from him. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. But we could have some spring league stuff to cover here if the CFL gets delayed.
And that's a big question I have is how do you encourage fans to emotionally invest in these teams if they, everything considered?
Yeah.
I don't want to be like negative Nancy here. There's plenty of that to go around coming up here in a second.
One last thing. I just want to give Brian Scott a shout out, friend of the show. We talked with Matt, his teammate from Spring League. Broadway Sports Media did a nice interview right up with him. He's just talking about trying to get into the NFL. What I like now is that we're covering these guys. Matt signs to the Alouettes. That's awesome, right? Like Ernesto's doing the football with the Rattlers. Like I like knowing these players. And if Brian Scott, he did a tryout with the Colts. He was talking all about that. I've seen him be posting workout stuff online. He had like a film crew working with him. Like I'll be excited to see where these guys end up because I feel like we know them now, where I feel like a different level of like fandom for Washington football, like with Heineke. And I feel that. I like that as a football fan.
Completely agree. So
we just want to roll into fan control here.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the commercial breaks in the audio podcast. Well, you already heard them, but I'm going to put them in between the interviews so that, we get all of them out of the way and we can just breeze to the end of the show.
Perfect. So we're going to do fan control football stuff now. They had their championship game and it was great. It was fine. And this is what I've come to realize. And we're going to talk about expansions and everything here in a minute. Fan control football at its best is just like, it's fine. Like the broadcast was fine. Like everything was fine. There wasn't any N words. There wasn't any Ray Austin is still insufferable. So that's where I'm at with.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling about that. I had a feeling about you saying that.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. Is it's like we'll see. I'm not going to get as heated. Try to get as heated about stuff here. I know we got a little out of hand this year with everything. But at the end of the day, it's fine. Like, it's fine. I want to talk about the viewers and stuff, but it was 40-40. Ed Crouch ran in with the game winner. I've been talking with him. I said, we should get him on the show. The Wild Aces won, which was awesome. All the NFL teams with their players got out the previous week. Wild Aces won. Greg Miller, friend of the show, like they won. The YouTubers owned the team and won. I think all that is great. Like I think that is all wonderful things. And but like I said, at its best, it is just like fine, something to watch. I still do not have my jersey, my Wild Aces jersey. I looked it up this week. I talked with Sarab about this, and I know this sounds nitpicky for like the podcast, but there are people commented this week on the YouTube. I can't believe Reed still doesn't have his jersey. Sarab was talking about expansions, and I retweeted, and I said, I would hope that before you expand, you would, send all the jerseys that you guys have. He goes, oh, please DM me, whatever. I ordered this jersey on January 14th. January 14th, I ordered this jersey and I still don't have it. And it is May 25th of recording of this. I spent $70 on it.
March 25th.
Yeah, sorry. And what I got was when I tweeted that, the Fan Control Football responded and they said, oh, we saw XFL in the name and we figured that you guys would go bankrupt and we'd have to buy this back anyway.
Shut up.
Well, and you can get into all that and whatever, but I'm a fan that spent $70 on something of your product, right? Like I'm a fan. We were fans. I mean, but like
there's a real person behind the account. It's not just a corporate entity, idiots.
Yeah, but and that was, and even like Braydon, when we were trying to schedule him to come on, he's like, well, what is the deal with this? Like, why are they being? And I go, I get it. Like I get that I trash talk and I trash tweet. Like I absolutely get all of that 100%. But I'm someone that spent $70 on a jersey. You have people that spend $150 to buy into these teams, and that's a really interesting take that they had. I DM with Sarab, and he goes, "Well, clearly some people got their jerseys. I don't know. Sorry you didn't get yours yet." And I said, "Well, okay, clearly some people did, and clearly some people didn't, because I had 6 people of the 700 people that follow me on Twitter, which is, a fraction of Fan Control Football. 5 people that follow me that are Fan Control Football fans also don't have their jerseys." So I just didn't like that the CEO came on, and was just very, I guess just dismissive of that. And the fact that, it was the $70, whatever. They emailed out this week. Well, first, I guess you wanted to talk about this. Sarab tweeted about selling tweets like Top Shot things.
Oh yeah. I've been looking into this. My friend Freeze brought it up on the Wheelhouse podcast. It's like, have you heard of these NFT non-fungible tokens? Basically, it's like selling digital assets like tweets and Facebook posts. Like if I take a picture and I post it on Instagram, I can now sell that photo to someone, and it's like, I guess, the new form of crypto in a way, where people can own a digital asset and then sell it off for maybe a loss, maybe a gain later on down the road. I guess that's what's happening with digital media these days, and I think it's very interesting. I like the idea, but I'm not sure there's a market for the first ever Fan Control Football play.
Yeah, Sarab was trying. He was like, "Well, would you buy this?" I mean, I think it's dumb. I think Matt Clements, a friend of the show, I think we talked about this, and he thinks it's dumb. I mean, I think crypto, it's still, clearly taking off. I was hesitant about that, but I think buying these, you buy the rights to the NBA replay or whatever on these Top Shots. I think I don't know what you really are owning from that. But I also really don't know what you're owning with these Fan Control Football teams. This email came out. This was sent over. It looks to me like they're diluting the offerings. Am I reading this right, Paul? You know a little bit more about like investing and things like that. They sent out, and they were saying like, "Thanks for your support this season, buying in. We're increasing the maximum offer for these teams." Is that what they're doing?
Why are they diluting? Why do they need to raise more money?
Well, because I think they only sold 3% of the teams in this first round, and now I think they're like, "Oh crap, a lot more people want to do this, or we need more money, or more." I would presume that I don't think they need money. I do think they're fine money. I think they just are like, "Oh shoot, we can sell more of this stuff for people." Like, well, how do we get more ownership? And so, is that just how investments work? Am I looking into this too much?
No, that's how investments work. I don't know why they need to raise more money. Because that's what I see when I see this. I'm like, oh, they need more money. Stop making digs about the XFL going bankrupt when you need to raise more money.
Well, we talked about this earlier. XFL went bankrupt for a lot of other reasons. Jordy was voted champion of the fans. I just thought that was cool. I love that Jordy, friend of the show, one of the first people we had on with his fan controlled stuff, and he's just excelled in everything. And I think he's really going to run wild with all this newfound popularity he's got from Fan Control Football. So the stream numbers came out for the championship game. They had 1 million views, which is down significantly from, they had like 3.2 million, I believe, the week before. But what was interesting was the average view time per view was 3 minutes.
Sounds a lot worse than 5 minutes average.
Because last week it was 5 minutes for
that's for your championship game. You'd think more people would stay tuned in for a championship game, but they didn't.
Well, I'm confused here because I've seen and Kevin, friend of the show, Kev on Twitter, some people think it has to do with like people like going on and off, like they're voting and then it's like opening back up. So it's either the viewership, either the number of views is skewed then wrong, right? Like, because if I'm going off and going back on, if I'm voting or something, then that number is wrong. Then it's not 1 million views. And that's skewing the other thing. So like either way, I think it's a terrible look. Either the 1 million views is inflated and it's really only like 500,000 or two, or like whatever, or that that's skewing that. But I don't think like I just think that's really poor, and especially where it's down from the week before. I mean, like I said, it was 3.2 to like 1 million views down. I mean, the number of views.
I know what happened. Someone was watching it on Twitch on their phone. Their cell phone signal dropped out after 3 minutes, and it came back up, and then all of a sudden that counted as a new view. So that's probably what happened.
But then it's not, and then I do buy into those concurrent views then of like the 45,000 people or 50,000 people that are watching, right? Because it's right. We get these numbers. We have the concurrent views, we have the total views, and then we have whatever. So like one of them is wrong or is reflecting wrong, and then I think it is more that they only have 45,000 people that are watching. And listener Max pointed out that any single XFL game last year averaged more viewers than that in Columbus, Ohio, which isn't even an XFL team, than 45,000.
Yeah.
Two last notes about this. We had talked about Fan Control Football salaries. I never wanted to go public with it because I just didn't have it verified. Sportico was talking this week about the success of the season 1 of the FCF and all that. This is the same numbers we heard, that the players make $400 to $750 a week plus their lodging and meals. And so I've known this the whole time, but I didn't want to be the guy that was like, remember when we interviewed Braydon Smith and he's like, well, it's better than nothing. And I knew what he was talking about because I know it's not a lot. We got to get this up. What do you think about that? 400 to, I mean, I know meals and lodging are paid for, but 400 to 750 a week.
I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging. This is not what I'm saying. I make more than $400 in a day at my current position.
Oh, I made more on unemployment from the business last year through the pandemic than that. On Washington State unemployment, when we have the special, because I'm self-employed, and they had all the, like, you could be on if you were self-employed or whatever for a while. I made more than that on state unemployment.
Yep.
So I get that they're doing all this, and this relates to the last question. So FCF is confirming. So Rob confirmed online now. This is updated from what I had on here. 6 teams, and they want to go in the fall. What do you think about? I think 6 teams is fine. I mean, 6 or 8, whatever. What do you think about Fan Control Football doing season 2 in the fall?
Who's going to watch it? The NFL's on.
Yeah, I don't think there's a chance in the world.
Oh wait. This is the bookstore that set up a website that thinks they're better than Amazon. I get it.
I tell you, if you're going in fall, I think you are effing crazy. I mean, WWE.
If they go in fall and they fail in fall, which they will, if they go in fall, I'm going to bring up that little tweet that I quote tweeted right now, just barely while we're talking on this podcast. I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to say, update? Oh, y'all bankrupt too. Oh.
Well, I do think that is this was my question before, when they talked about doing the multiple seasons every year. I get that. I get wanting to do all that, but like, when do you run? XFL and all this springtime's a good time. Summer's fine. But, NFL is king, and WWE fights that every year, that they know the second that first Monday Night Football game comes on, WWE is a 50-year established brand, and it just tanks. And I really am concerned for them going in the fall.
I am too. And I think that's, I don't understand. I guess I don't understand the logic of going in the fall up against the NFL.
No, and college football and everything else, and high school football. And I mean, when do you run? I mean, high school football is on Fridays, right? Fridays, and then you got
sometimes Thursdays.
Thursday football. You got Monday. I mean, I just know you go Tuesday nights. I mean, Spring League did in November. They did that Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, that was fine. I guess you do that. I mean, I guess you have to do. But ask Brian Woods how Spring League viewership did in November. Not good. And they were on Fox. I mean, they were on Fox FS1 and FS2. So, we're done. I mean, we went really long. But what is with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch with the shrimp? This is the garbage segment.
This guy's a comedian. He's a TV writer. I'm not buying it.
So it's not shrimp?
I think he put the shrimp in the stupid bag.
A guy found the shrimp tails in his Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I think he put the shrimp in the bag.
That's Topanga's husband.
Wait, what?
That's what I heard. I heard that it was Topanga's husband, Danielle Fisher. huge crush on Daniel Fisher. But I mean, that was, or Fisher, however you said the name. Fischel. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, Danielle Fischel, husband. Yes, Cinnamon Scrunch. Here we go. Boss right up. Yes, the Cinnamon Scrunch guy's married to Topanga from Boy Meets World.
That should like raise all the red flags right there. That like this guy's in the industry and he's a comedian. Like, why are we not paying more attention? Like, this is stupid. This is fake. And I hope they sue him. I hope Cinnamon Toast Crunch sues his ass.
Well, I saw that. I just can we talk about that? I just didn't know what was going on. So anyway, we went really long. Thank you.
Yeah, we did.
So
it's okay. It's okay. We had a lot of stuff in. We want to thank Matt, want to thank Braydon, want to thank Dave Campbell for coming on.
We added 4 more subscribers while we recorded this podcast. So that's kind of make you feel good.
That does make me feel good.
That makes me feel great.
Yeah, xflshow.com/YouTube. Please subscribe to the podcast. Again, at 1,000 subscribers, we're giving away that Ocho Cinco ball. We're giving away, I guess, a new knockoff Taylor Heineke jersey too.
We got Taylor Heineke. I got 2 hats. I got a jersey. I got stuff. I'll find.
You know what we're gonna do? What else we're gonna do? I'm gonna pick 10 people out of the subscriber count. I'm gonna give them a coupon at the XFL Markcast store.
There you go.
Let's do that too. Why not?
We got a lot. Anyway, thank you guys, everyone. Please subscribe. We're a ton of work, and we got a big show coming up next week too. I got to schedule, but we got good guests coming up next week. So
we appreciate all your listenership, all your patronage, and we'll see you next week.